Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Jai Shri Ram. Welcome to our next episode in our complete reading of Valmiki Ramayana. In the previous episode, we saw how Ravana was explaining the whole problem to Kumbhakarna, and on the other hand, Vibhishana informs the Vanaras that it's a big yantra and not Kumbhakarna, a big machine that was created that is coming to kill, and it's not Kumbhakarna. So the Vanaras are back now. At this particular point of time in the palace, Ravana is now talking to Kumbhakarna, and Kumbhakarna says, the things which need to be done in the front, you are doing them later, and the things that need to be done later, you are doing them upfront, which is wrong. You should have discussed, you should have looked for all these things, you should have looked for all the possibilities and probabilities that you would have to face before abducting Sitama. You did not consult anyone then. You just went ahead and did whatever came to your mind, whatever you felt was right, you did. And now you are coming here and asking all of us for suggestions. This is not correct. And I think the correct way to solve the situation right now is following Vibhishana's advice. Then he takes a big glass of Ravana. He tells how a king needs to handle the ministers, how a king needs to sit and discuss with a lot of people before he does any actions, and how a king should not bring up any trouble onto the kingdom for his selfish gains. Like that, Kumbhakarna will read a laundry list that a king should do, and he'll also admonish Ravana that he has not followed the right path. At this point of time, Ravana gets angry and he says, I have not called you to listen lectures from you. If you want to fight for me, you fight for me. Else you are free to choose whatever you want to, like Vibhishana. At this point of time, again, Kumbhakarna says, no, don't worry. At the end of the day, I'm still your brother. I'll still go. I'll still fight for you. Saying this, he'll order for his big Sura to be brought and his chariot and all to be brought, so that he can enter the war. And then he says to Ravana, oh Ravana, I told you all this because I am your brother, and as a brother, I need to put you in the right path. That's why I told you all this. But otherwise, if you order me to go ahead and fight, yeah, I am here to go ahead and fight. Saying this, Kumbhakarna gets ready to go out and fight. As Kumbhakarna leaves, he also sees a eagle coming and sitting on his chariot. There is a huge chariot for him. He takes a considerable size of the army also along with him. He initially says, you need not come, but again he takes them. But before he starts, there is some interesting thing that happens. As the brothers are discussing, Mahodara, a minister who is there near Ravana, he comes to Ravana and says, why are we even fighting this war? I have a plan through which we can quickly get Sita Ma and also ensure that Sri Rama does not have any purpose. So what he says is, see, some of us Rakshas will go to the battle and we will somehow get the Ramavanas. We will somehow create a fake illusory Ramavanas so that they are there on our bodies. With that, we will go and we'll show to Sita Ma that SriRamachandra is dead. The moment she hears that SriRamachandra is dead, she will become yours, and then there is no need for this fight. Again, Ravana and Kumbhakarna, both of them dismiss this, and then Kumbhakarna says, I am going to get the head for you. You wait. Saying this, Kumbhakarna, he calls for his chariot. He starts, he sees a lot of bad omens. Again, an eagle comes and sits on his chariot's dhwaja. So, whenever an eagle comes and visits a man who is going for a war, that man won't come back is the indication. So, he goes out. Again, he also exits from the Uttaradwara, northern gate of the city, and once he comes into the battlefield, he starts eating away Vanaras. Now, initially, Swami Hanuman goes and he fights, he stops Kumbhakarna, he twice or thrice he hits Kumbhakarna so hard that the Rakshasa is stunned. But then that Rakshasa gives it back to Hanuman. The entire Vanara army will be running away. Angada will actually rally all the troops around behind him, and he'll come and put up an attack on Kumbhakarna again, but not much of a success. Kumbhakarna gets the better of Angada also. At this point of time, Sugriva enters the battlefield. In the middle, again, Swami Hanuman enters the battlefield and he puts Kumbhakarna at bay for some time. But in the interim, Sugriva comes into the battle. Sugriva and Kumbhakarna, they both have a huge fight. Kumbhakarna tries to use his powers, his arrows and all, but Sugriva also keeps giving back in the same way. And Sugriva uses huge boulders. He actually brings hills, small hills and hillocks, and he'll start throwing them onto Kumbhakarna. When Sugriva throws all these things onto Kumbhakarna, he takes out his shula and he tries to throw it on Sugriva. Hanuman intervenes in the middle and he bends the shula. Now some historians say no, Sugriva only did it. It was not Swami Hanuman. Either ways, that's what has happened. And now Kumbhakarna gets the better of Sugriva. He makes Sugriva unconscious, and then he starts taking Sugriva along with him towards Lanka. Now all the Rakshasas are excited that the victory has finally come onto their side. Now Swami Hanuman, who sees Sugriva being abducted or being taken away as a prisoner by Kumbhakarna, he wants to intervene, but at the same time he decides against it. Why does he decide against it? Is he thinks that the person who is being taken away now is the king. If I go and rescue him, the king himself might feel bad. The king himself will come back. So let me wait for that. Swami Hanuman does not go ahead. On the battlefield, temperature was higher. In the Lanka Nagra, the temperature was getting cooler, and all the women they start pouring the scented water and all on Kumbhakarna, thanking him for the victory. All this, they wake up Sugriva, and Sugriva immediately realizes that he's captured. So he uses all his power and hits Kumbhakarna on his face, on his nose, mouth, and ears. Kumbhakarna is stunned. He then releases Sugriva from his grip and he tries to throw him onto the ground to kill him. As he leaves, Sugriva immediately jumps back towards SriRamachandra and reaches SriRamachandra in one jump. That's the power of him. Now, Kumbhakarna comes back into the attack. Now he starts eating Vanaras, Rakshasas. In one go, he's at least having 5 or 6 of Vanaras. Looking at this, all the Vanaras come and plead with Sriramachandra that Kumbhakarna is actually making the life very tough for them. At this point of time, Lakshmana tries to go and he tries to stop Kumbhakarna for a while. Kumbhakarna is mighty impressed, but he says, I want to go and fight with Sriramachandra. Now Sriramachandra enters the battlefield and he and Kumbhakarna have huge war. Both of them they start using arrows, and initially Sriramachandra uses some of his sharpest arrows and hits Kumbhakarna. At this point of time, Kumbhakarna starts releasing fire and bomb like things from his mouth, fireballs from his mouth. Sriramachandra then starts using his divine powers also. He uses Raudrastra. In response only, Kumbhakarna gives this fire. Sriramachandra takes some normal arrows and he hits Kumbhakarna in the chest. At this point of time, Kumbhakarna's all the weapons they have fell down. Kumbhakarna now starts the fight with his hand. He wants to get into a hand-to-hand combat, and then he doesn't stop. He doesn't fight with Rama. Instead, he starts eating the Bhallukas, he eats the Rakshasas, whatever he's getting, Vanaras, Rakshasas, everything he starts eating. Now he starts using the mountains and all on Sri Ramachandra. Sri Ramachandra quickly dodges each of that. Sri Ramachandra now realizes that he has to somehow restrict the movement of this person. So Sri Ramachandra uses a lot of arrows. He even uses the arrows that he used to break all 7 salt trees in one go. Even they will not be showing any impact on Kumbhakarna. At this point, Sri Ramachandra takes Vayuvyastra and he cuts off one of the hands of Kumbhakarna. This makes Kumbhakarna shout loud. Kumbhakarna is now very, very agitated. He does not understand what to do. He has lost his hand, but still he is fighting there. Sri Ramachandra uses another astra. Sri Ramachandra picks out his Aindra astra, and with that he cuts off the other hand of Kumbhakarna. So both hands of Kumbhakarna are removed, and then Kumbhakarna still comes on to fight. Sri Ramachandra uses 2 arrows which are crescent shaped arrows, and he hits both the legs. He takes both the legs of Kumbhakarna. Even then, Kumbhakarna is opening his mouth. He's eating as many people as possible, and still he's moving towards Sri Ramachandra. Sri Ramachandra starts pushing a lot of arrows on him, but Kumbhakarna won't stop. He keeps coming ahead, and then Sri Ramachandra picks out an astra. Probably it's an Agneya astra, I believe, because it says Sasayako Raghavahu Chodito Disasvabhasa Dasamprakasyan Sadurma Vaisvanara Deepta Darsano. So the arrow itself is looking like Vaishvanara or Agnideva Jagama Sakrasani Virya Vikramaha. So then Sri Ramachandra takes that arrow to me, which is the Agneya astra, and with that astra he cuts off or he removes the head from the body of Kumbhakarna, and Kumbhakarna is dead. And now this arrow, it doesn't stop. It actually breaks a lot of doors of Lanka as it is falling back. It breaks a lot of doors of Lanka. It even breaks the front arch of a number of buildings, and then it stops. This body of Kumbhakarna, it goes and falls in the sea, crushing a lot of fish and other things under it, and it reaches the bottom of the sea. And all the devas, the Gandharvas, everyone is happy that Kumbhakarna is dead. All of them are doing Jai Ghosha. At that particular point of time, one man who is crying, or one Rakshasa who is crying, is Ravana. He starts crying, not just him, all the Rakshasas start crying. Ravana says, why did I start this war? I should have at least listened to Vibhishana. The moment I heard the death of Prahasta, from then itself my mind is saying that I made a wrong decision. Kumbhakarna's death is actually aggravating it more. I'll have to take a call, and what should I do? Now Ravana is thinking about all these things very, very interestingly, and he starts crying. He even says, I unnecessarily insulted Vibhishana. Because of the insult I hurled at him, I am being forced to see this day. Saying this, Ravana falls down on the ground and he is crying and he loses his consciousness. Then he wakes up again. Now what does he do after waking up? That we'll be seeing in our next episode. Sarve bhavantu sukhiनः sarve santu niramayaः sarve bhadraणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् सर्वं श्री साई महाराज स्वामी चरणारविन्दार्पणमस्तु स्वस्ति जय श्री राम.